Okay, so we can get started if you want to start, Klesra, and we'll let people in as they come.
Thank you. Hi everyone, welcome to Horizons Faculty Fest Science webinar. We're super excited to have the Science Welcome Week planners here today to share some tips, dispel some common faculty myths, and answer some frequently asked questions. We first wanted to start off with a land acknowledgement because even though we're coming from different locations, we recognize that our work takes place on the traditional territories across Ontario, and today we're going to share the land acknowledgement for McMaster University. So McMaster University sits on the traditional territories of the Mississauga and Haudenosaunee nations and within the lands protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. This agreement is also a covenant with nature, which states, "Take what you need, leave something in the dish for others, and keep the dish clean." We share this land acknowledgement with you today to urge everyone to reflect on who originally protected and cared for this land, how we came to be here, and the responsibilities we hold in caring for the land we share with the community. Especially in institutions of higher learning, it is our responsibility to create space where we can engage in conversations about the reality of Canadian history, challenge our dominant ideologies, and continue to call out injustices and inequalities that impede us from Indigenous justice and reconciliation. We also encourage everyone to take time to learn and reflect on the history of the land you live on by visiting whos.land. All right, so welcome again. This week's webinar is part of a weekly series, with today being Faculty Fest, the Science webinar of Faculty Fest. So if you'd like, you can watch all of our previous webinars on the MSU Broadcast YouTube channel, and today we'll be answering some questions we received on our Instagram, and if you have any questions that come up today, please use the chat to message Brittany, and we'll try our best to answer during the Q&A at the end. So first, I want to introduce you to what the McMaster Student Union is, or also known as MSU. The MSU is a student organization that represents over 24,000 students, and it's comprised of all undergraduate students enrolled in 18 or more units. So if you're a full-time student, you are represented by the MSU. The MSU also runs over 36 business units and services to help enhance student life. So in the past, we've had speakers from MSU Spark, Wagen, SHEC, and Diversity Services, and we hope that you will be able to engage with all the other services throughout your undergrad career at McMaster. McMaster Horizons is also governed by the MSU as well, and so we'll share what the Horizons is. Horizons is a leadership conference that typically runs in the summer for incoming first-year students for developing lifelong leadership skills and also to introduce first years to the Hamilton and McMaster community. We usually do this through sessions and events at conference, but this year we had to change it to an online experience due to COVID-19. So if you've been engaging with our Instagram, you will have seen sessions and webinars and also takeovers that are hosted by us on our Instagram. So now I'd like to introduce some of the team members here today, starting with myself. My name is Klesra, my pronouns are she and her. I started off in the Life Science Gateway stream, and now I'm going to my third year of biochemistry co-op in the co-op stream as well. I am half of sponsorship and fundraising for MSU Horizons, and today I'll be your moderator.
Hi everyone, my name is Brittany, my pronouns are she and her, and I am going into my fourth year of integrated science. I'm one half of the sessions coordinators for Horizons, and I will be also a moderator today. Just a reminder, please send me your questions in the chat function, and I will try and bring as many of them as I can up in the Q&A session.
Hi everyone, my name is Gani. My pronouns are she and her. I'm going into my fourth year of health sciences, and I'm one half of events for Horizons. I'm going to be one of the administrators for today's webinar, so if you have any technical difficulties, please forward them over to me in the private chat function.
Hi everyone, my name is Dana. My pronouns are also she and her. I'm going to my fourth year of life sciences. I'm one half of the sponsorship and fundraising coordinators for Horizons. And today I'll be the administrator. So if you have any questions regarding administrative things, please feel free to message me. Just a reminder, please mute yourselves and keep your video off for the rest of the week.
Now I'd like to introduce the speakers here today to give an overview as well as what they're going to say today.
Hi everyone, I'm Juliana. I use she, her pronouns, and I am going into my 4th year of kinesiology. I am one of the 2 science welcome week planners this year. So for everyone who's coming into 1st year, all the welcome week events that will be happening for the Faculty of Science will be planned by myself, my co-planner, and our team of 163 individuals. So just to give a little bit of background about myself, along with planning Welcome Week, I also volunteer at McMaster at the Physical Activity Center for Excellence. I tutor for the Anatomy and Physiology course, which is available to 1st year students and upper year students. In addition, I'm a tutor and a mentor for the McMaster Science Society. And some things I like to do in my free time include reading, going for bike rides, and playing with my dog.
Hi everyone, so I'm the other Science Welcome Week planner. My name is Sydney and I use she, her pronouns. I'm entering my 4th year as a medical radiation sciences student and I am specializing in ultrasound. Apart from being a Welcome Week planner, I was also previously the co-president of the MRSSS, which is the Medical Radiation Sciences Student Society. And in the past year, I was also a co-choreographer for the McMaster Science Musical. I love singing, dancing, and watching dramas with my family.
All right, I'll just hand it over to the science planners now to give an overview of the faculty.
All right, awesome. So first and foremost, we just want to say welcome to the biggest and best faculty that McMaster has to offer. We are the largest faculty on campus with 7 first-year programs. So as some of you may be aware, we do have direct entry programs and gateway programs. So for direct entry programs, such as kinesiology, medical radiation sciences, and integrated science, you have a set of prescribed first-year classes that you have to complete before advancing to 2nd year. And those differ from the gateway programs, wherein you're able to choose the first-year courses that you want to take in order to qualify to be in specific 2nd year specializations. So our 4 gateway programs in the Faculty of Science include life sciences, earth and environmental sciences, chemical and physical sciences, and mathematics and statistics. And just a little fun fact for all of you, prior to course selection, we were sitting at around 2,400 incoming 1st year science students, which is super exciting for us as Welcome Week planners.
And here's some academic tips as well.
Okay, so some courses in 1st year science have a lot of what we call moving parts, and these consist of like lecture components as well as video modules, quizzes and pre-lab quizzes, and then labs and post-lab assignments. So for example, in the past, Chem 1 AO3 has included a variety of different components like online quizzes. And then there's also this thing called Mastering Chemistry, which is like optional homework that you can do and it can contribute to your grade.
Okay, I need to watch this. You can finish it if you want.
As well as labs that require preparation and a report to be submitted before the lab was complete. A tip that's really important is to make use of an agenda or like an online calendar such as iCalendar or Google Calendar or anything that you can use to help you stay on track. It can become quite easy to forget about a little quiz or something. So even if you didn't use an agenda in high school, I highly recommend that you do use one to just keep yourself organized and to know what you have to do post and pre-classes. Additionally, for courses where there's a lot of problem solving involved, we can't recommend anything else but a lot of practice. Make use of the practice tests and the exams that the professors will provide you. And if you have time to complete textbook questions, we also highly suggest that as well. Take any opportunity to practice and continue to do more practice questions because the more you do, the better you'll understand the concepts. Also, if you are in a gateway program, we highly recommend using the McMaster Academic Planner, also written there as MapSci. So you can select all the courses you're taking in 1st year, and it'll show you if you have all the required ones that you want for a specific 2nd year specialization that you're interested in. So be sure to use this because there are prerequisites if you want to specialize in a specific 2nd year program. So make sure you take all the required courses needed. It's super helpful to use and it's really easy to use as well.
Yeah, I actually want to say as well, like I really love all these tips. As in 1st year, I wish I knew some of these. For example, with the agenda thing, I really love Google Calendar. It's actually been a lifesaver, especially because you can go on Mosaic and actually transfer your schedule onto Google Calendar as well, if students didn't know that.
Can I just add something really quick? I think in terms of like doing practice questions, that's one of the biggest thing I learned like throughout second year, like not even first year, is that practice questions are the key to like doing well in any of your courses. So if they're provided to you, if there's like 100 of them, just try to do as many as you can. I feel like the more you do them, the more you realize where you struggle, and then that's where you can kind of ask for help, go to office hours, and then that way you can really get the best out of like your course experience. But yeah, I would say that really helped me improve myself throughout first year.
All right, so a few other academic tips that we have for everyone. Definitely make use of your professor office hours. So even if they're virtual, it'll essentially just be probably some sort of like online Zoom call where you get to chat one-on-one or maybe in some sort of small group with your professor. And they definitely want to help you and they want you to succeed. So professors that I've gone to for office hours have always been really appreciative, and they always really appreciate your effort towards being successful in their class. And they honestly love to see you come out and chat with them. So in addition to professor office hours, we'd also recommend using your TA office hours or any sort of TA help center hours and stuff like that. So often TAs or teaching assistants are undergraduate students just like us. So they really understand and they have some shared experiences with you. And finally, in terms of academic tips, we definitely recommend using the MSS tutoring service. So I'm an MSS tutor myself, and all the tutors are hired and trained by the tutoring coordinator. And you have to get an A- in the class in order to be able to tutor it. So all the tutors are really, really knowledgeable, and it's a really helpful service. And in addition, I'm not 100% sure how the tokens will be working this year. However, in the past, there have been tutor tokens that all undergraduate students are eligible for. And essentially what that is it's just free tutoring. So you get a tutoring token, you can use it towards your session. And in the past, it has qualified for $10 off of your tutoring session, which means you'd only be paying $5 for your hour session with a tutor. And that's been a really great resource. Myself being a tutor, I've also used the McMaster Science Society tutoring service. So that's another academic tip that I definitely recommend.
Yeah, I wanted to add that there are so many resources available to you at McMaster, and I feel like if you really want to succeed, I feel like if you need that help, you can always reach out to professors or even students who can relate to you and provide the help that you need. I went to office hours for chemistry once, and I actually really appreciated it because even though I had one question, there were other students with like questions from the tests that we've been doing. I didn't realize that I didn't get how to actually do it until like the professors taught everyone there. So it was really helpful just going to office hours and seeing what other questions students have and what I might have as well.
Yeah, sorry, I just like to jump in on that. I think going to office hours is definitely very beneficial, especially for things like scientific writing or even in electives you're taking with, say you had to write an essay maybe. Just knowing what the prof or TA is looking for in terms of how they're marking, they do tell you that directly if you reach out to them and ask for help. So.
Yeah, and with teaching assistants, sometimes there are students that went through the same course that you're taking right now, so they'll know like definitely like what students usually struggle with and what they struggle with and share how they like overcame those kind of problems that they have during their course. So now we're going to move on to Mythbusters, just dispelling some common myths that you might have heard already from the Master Science Society, like faculty.
Yeah, okay, so to start, a common faculty myth is that every science student wants to go to medical school. And in the beginning, it may seem like that. All your peers that you speak to might say that they want to go to medical school, but I think the undergrad experience really helps open your eyes to a whole bunch of different professions that are out there. We also have a lot of resources where we expose you to a lot of different professions that you can go into after undergrad. And I think it's just a lot of exploring and finding out what you like, because throughout your undergrad, you might realize that medical school isn't what you want, or that you actually have another passion in something else. Another one is that organic chemistry is impossible. A lot of people talk about this because organic chemistry is known to be a hard course and a lot of students have to take it. But there's a lot of ways to go around it, and there is a lot you can do, and a lot of people actually do end up enjoying organic chemistry. Another option is for you to take it in summer school. A lot of people don't want to take it during like the actual academic school year. So if you want to get it over with and just focus on it in the summer, that's an option that a lot of students do consider. Also, thinking that you're just a number in a huge competitive faculty is another myth. Although in first year, a lot of your classes may be in big lecture halls, there's a lot, like, you're not just a number to all the professors, especially if you reach out and get involved and go to office hours and meet the professors or stay back after class and ask them your questions. It may feel like that at first, but if you find your way and build your own little community with friends, it won't be as bad. And lastly, professors are scary and only care about research. I was really afraid of this when I first entered university, because I was like, oh, professors aren't really like high school teachers, it's not the same. But I realized, like, throughout my courses, that professors, like Juliana said, do really want to help you succeed, and they actually aren't as scary as you think. Once you approach them and ask them some questions and actually engage in a personal one-on-one conversation, you can see how human they are as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you said. It's like you're just a number in a huge competitive faculty thing, and also like every science student wants to go into medical school. I definitely like got over this myth, because in second year you get to specialize and go into a program. I know you're going to talk about later. We get to specialize and go into something that you might not even known that you would have liked when you first started undergrad. And then also in the specializations, you're put into smaller groups of students, which then you can kind of like figure out which profs are there from your faculty or from your department to help you as well.
All right, so some more common science faculty myths, or just university in general, is that you have to know exactly what you want to do when you enter first year. I can definitely personally speak to this because I'm going into my fourth year and I still have like 5 different options that I'm considering for what I want to do after undergrad. So you definitely 110% do not have to know what you're doing when you enter first year, second year, third year. It's completely okay, tying into the next myth, it's completely okay to change your mind. I know so many people who have changed programs or changed faculties. Honestly, when you're in university, like Sydney was talking about, you're exploring so many different opportunities and passions that you may completely change your mind and find something that you never knew you liked. So you do not have to know right away. And it really is a process to figure out what you want to do and what you can see yourself being happy with for the rest of your life. A final myth that's pretty common for university students is that everyone pulls all-nighters to study for midterms or exams. Would not recommend that at all. I think I can speak on behalf of quite a few, or if not all of the panelists, when I say if you do this, or if you have very, very little sleep going into a midterm or an exam, you will feel essentially like a zombie, and you will just not be happy at all, and you will not be able to think straight. Please, if you take like one thing from this webinar, please get your sleep, and please don't just rely on caffeine as a source of keeping yourself awake for midterms or in exams. Sleep is so much more important, and the sleep that you get will definitely outweigh that extra bit of cramming that you might get to do if you weren't sleeping. So please just don't pull all-nighters.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that point you had right there. I know the university can seem kind of intimidating, and with everyone kind of saying like, oh, I pulled an all-nighter, sometimes it can become kind of like you're just like showing off in a way, but it shouldn't be something that you show off at all. And I feel like this is really important to stress in university, especially. All right, so we're gonna go over some electives that we took in first year and some that we would recommend as well.
Okay, so first and foremost, I want to emphasize that you should take an elective that interests you and something that you want to study like for. A lot of people just think like, oh, let me just go find all these bird courses and like, let me just easily pass them. But a big part of being successful in any course is to make sure that you still do have some sort of passion and interest within it. Because if you hate the course, even if it's easy, you won't want to put, any time and dedication into it. And as a result, you won't be able to do well in that course. So please choose something that interests you and that you will want to study for. Another option is to take electives to satisfy a minor. So for a lot of programs, if you take a certain number of courses, you can also get a minor in it. For example, a lot of people do that with psychology courses to have a minor in psychology. As well, you can consider electives to satisfy any graduate programs that you want to consider. So for example, if you want to consider like occupational therapy, you might need to take anatomy and physiology, which is like a kinesiology course, but your life science program might not require it. Some common electives that students do take, I listed on the slide there. So Science 1A03, Environmental Sciences 1CO3, Classics 2MT3, Econ 1BO3 and 1BB3, as well as Anthro 1AA3 and Linguistics 1AO3. Personally speaking, I took Classics 2MT3, and that one is for like medical terminology. So it was really fun. We get to learn like the suffixes and prefixes of medical terms, like learning that itis means like inflammation, for example. And we also get to touch on a little bit of Latin, which I thought was really cool and super fun.
I also took that course and I absolutely loved it, but I also know people who took it and heard that it was an easy course just because that's what everyone was saying. And I know some of you who actually hated coming out of it, so make sure it's something that you definitely want to do. Like same thing with all the other electives as well.
Something I just quickly wanted to add about electives actually is that when you're in upper years, don't be afraid to take courses that are in different years. So this past year, I just finished my 3rd year and I took a first-year health and aging class as an elective, and it was called Introduction to Mental Health and Illness, and it was probably one of the best electives I've ever took. So don't be afraid to really explore different options and take a wide variety of electives.
Okay, so how does specializing in 2nd year work?
Okay, so me and Juliana are both in like entry-level science programs, so we aren't the best at this. So if any other panelists want to engage, please feel free to speak up as well. But 2nd year specializations and programs, like we said before, with using the MaxSci app, help depend on what 1st year courses you take. So there are some specific programs that require specific courses. In addition to that, there might be specific grades you have to meet, so having a specific GPA. And rather than an overall GPA, there might also be specific marks you need to reach within a specific course. So it's really important to do your research and find out what marks you need in specific courses and what overall GPA you need to get into the specialization you would like. Also, there are 3rd year specializations. So whether you want to stay in like general life sci, for example, or go into biology, in 3rd year, you can also consider 3rd year specializations, which I've listed on the screen, which says biology and pharmacology, as well as biomedical discovery and commercialization. So those 2 programs are both programs that you would apply to after you have completed your 2nd year.
I can definitely add like a couple things for specializations. So I didn't even know that there were specializations coming to Mac when I entered as life sci, so you're all definitely already a step ahead of me. So essentially there's just like various specializations that exist, like biochemistry, chemical biology, psychology, neuroscience, and behavior. So there's tons of options, but essentially all your 1st year courses kind of help you decide what you like. So if you like really enjoy all your psych courses, one of the possible options could be psychology, neuroscience, and behavior, or psychology and biology. So there's definitely a lot of options, but I know that the McMaster Science Society, also known as the MSS, they host things later in the year where they'll have students come from like different specializations, and they'll be able to kind of guide you and like talk about like their specializations, and you can ask them a ton of questions. But the requirements for every specialization is online. They don't differ too much. Like essentially if you're taking all of like the 1st year courses, you should be able to get into most of them. I wouldn't worry about it too much in first semester. It's mostly in like second semester. Some of them might require like the second chemistry. If you're trying to go into like the chemistry program and things like that, you can definitely look into that second semester. But I would say the main point is like reaching out to upper years. There's all these different Facebook pages, and like if you just post like, oh, can some upper years comment, there will be like tons of comments and people you can message that'll be able to like help guide you and answer all your questions about second year specializations. That's how I picked mine, just through talking to upper years. But yeah.
Yeah, I agree. There's so many resources closer to when you start having to choose which specialization you want to go into. And I think at that point too, there's like even like a whole list of students who, or like a whole like Facebook post made for students, upper year students, to comment what faculty they're in. And then you can reach out to those people specifically. You have like a preference that you might want to go into. I also wanted to add that McMaster has a co-op stream that I'm in and also Nagar is in, which you choose in third year, and that isn't offered to all of the specializations. So if you are interested in co-op or some sort of internship, like every department is different. So I would also look into that if you wanted to get some experience or anything.
I was also going to add that there's also an option of not specializing in life sciences, specifically that program. So for example, I didn't specialize going into my second year. And I guess like talk a little bit about my experience. I really enjoyed it because I felt like I was interested in a lot of different things. Like I wanted to pursue electives outside of science as well. And I thought that I got the freedom to do that. So yeah, definitely explore your options. And there's all the information's online. Definitely upper years are a great way to go.
So does everyone in science do research / volunteer in a lab?
All right, so I feel like this kind of also ties into myths. I feel like sometimes in first year, there can be a lot of pressure to feel like you have to find a research specialization. So the answer to this question, short answer is no, nor is this something that a lot of students look into in first year. I've known students that have been interested in looking for research opportunities in first year, but this is definitely not something that you need to necessarily worry about or feel like you have to get done when you're in first year. Some students do just to gain research experience, or some students do it to pursue an interest in a certain field. So I know a friend of mine who actually has diabetes, so she was interested in looking into research of that sort. So you can definitely pursue different interests in that way. If you are interested in pursuing research of any sort, there are a bunch of different options for things that you can do. So you could reach out to professors and see if they have volunteer positions. You could be involved in third year research courses, which you don't have to worry about right now. Or you could also complete a fourth year thesis course. So just speaking about my experience a little bit personally, I didn't have any research experience coming into third year, and honestly, even going into fourth year. So I knew that I was interested in getting a little bit of experience, and then I wanted to do a thesis. So I reached out to a whole bunch of different professors in the Department of Kinesiology, which was my department, that I thought I would be interested in. And essentially just through having conversations with professors, I was able to pursue a thesis position. So a lot of them, some of them do prefer that you're in their laboratory before you do a thesis with them, but so many of them are really open to just finding different students who are interested in working with them. So research is a very broad thing, and we're really lucky to have all the opportunities that we do have at McMaster for research.
Yeah, and just to add on to those great points, just to kind of give my experience, after first year, I did feel some sort of pressure to find like this research or volunteer job in a lab on campus in the summer, because you do have 4 months of summer. So I was like, how do I feel that? But then I just ended up getting a part-time job at a grocery store and volunteering at a vet clinic, because that's what I was interested in. So definitely don't be afraid to do something different than what some of your friends are doing, and pursue your interests. And yeah, that would be my little piece of advice.
Thank you, Juliana and Sydney, for that lovely overview of the science faculty. Now I'd like to open the floor to Brittany for questions. And just a reminder, if you have any more questions, send them over to Brittany in the chat.
Awesome. So yeah, we got quite a few really great questions. So I'll try and pick out the ones that we did not touch too much on. So a first question, can I take prerequisite courses for level 2 programs in the spring term?
I can answer that. I'm pretty sure that as long as you finish the required before you start, you should be fine because you get admitted, I think, in June and July into your second year program. So that should be okay. But I would check with the I would check the requirements. I feel like if you weren't allowed to, they would probably tell you, but I'm pretty sure you can. Just because the required courses you have to finish by literally when you graduate and things like that. So yeah, I think it should be okay. If it's offered, you should be able to take it and still get into your second year specialization.
And if you have any questions with that, I would totally reach out to your academic advisor to see if you can or can't as well.
Awesome. Okay, the next question. Do you know how labs are going to be conducted online?
I can also quickly touch on that. So obviously the university doesn't really know how the situation with COVID is going to go in September, and they are adapting as things happen. Right now, there's very minimal presence on campus, and that's how it's intended to stay for the fall semester. So I don't think as of now that the labs will be happening. For example, chem labs, because that's just a ton of students. But however, if these things change, you will definitely get an email from the university letting you know. But I'm just assuming that since they said the fall semester will be online, they will not change that, just because some students won't be coming in to province and things like that. So I'm pretty sure a lot of the labs will be virtual. But again, if there are changes, the university will announce that, so you will know that prior to.
Thanks, Nagar. So our next question, are the exams back-to-back like in high school?
I can talk about that one a little bit. So essentially, closer to the end of the term, you'll be able to go on Mosaic and see your exam schedule. So your exam schedule is personalized to you, and it depends on all the courses that you are taking. So every student, for example, who's taking Chem 1 AO3 will be writing the exam at the exact same time. So it's not like in high school when all your exams are just back to back to back. For example, I've had sometimes 10 days between some of my exams. So it just depends on how the university schedules them. So if you were in first year life science, for example, you could have your chemistry 1AO exam, 1AO3 exam on the first day. Then maybe a few days later, you have your bio 1AO3 exam just because that's when it's scheduled. And then maybe at the end of the exam period, you have your physics exam. So it just depends on the year, and it just depends on how the university decides to schedule them. But they will not all be back to back. There's the potential that you could have exams back to back, and you could even have 2 in one day. However, I believe the stipulation is that the university will never give you more than 3 within 24 hours. So you'll never have a overload of way too many exams in a certain period of time.
Awesome, thank you. So another question, I know university can be draining, so do you guys have any tips on how to stay motivated? I can start answering that a bit. So definitely university can be draining, especially coming into this transition of a different workload from high school. I would definitely say to try and take breaks whenever you need to, and remember that you need to eat, you need to drink water, you need to do all those basic things. So yeah, my main tip would be try and take breaks throughout the day so you're not just constantly studying. And that can help kind of refresh your mind.
Yeah, I'd also say, just to speak on that a little bit more, is if you are looking to get involved with things on campus, definitely do things that you're interested in, do things that you love. So for example, for me personally, being involved in Welcome Week, it's been something that I've loved since first year. So it feels less like a volunteer commitment and more just I get to do what I love to do with some amazing people. So I think that if you have time for breaks, please always make time for breaks. But also if you do have commitments, it really does help if there are things that you're super passionate about.
Yeah, and I wanted to add that breaks look different for everyone. So for me, it's like going exercise or talking to friends, and I wanted to like really encourage just kind of like taking a break where you're feeling refreshed as well, doing something that's different from your normal routine.
Also, just wanted to add, in terms of staying motivated, I think it's super important, especially now that we're in an online environment, to really stay on top of everything, because now that you might be at home, it might be easier to, get distracted, or, family events might be happening. But I recommend, like we said, using a calendar and making sure that you stay on top of all the online lectures, or like all the course readings and all the modules you might have to complete. I recommend like scheduling the time in as if it were to be like an actual online lecture, making sure you do them at that time just so that it can help you stay on top of things. And because you are following a specific schedule, you'll know when you have free time, and you can like schedule in breaks and do things that to take time off as well.
Thank you. Those are all amazing points. So another question, if I need help with any lab reports, would the MSS tutors be able to help out with that?
I believe that they'll be able to help you with like structure and things like that. They can't answer any questions for you, like provide you with an actual answer, like even for a quiz or an assignment, they can't directly give you the answer, but they can give you the tools to help you come up with the answer by yourself. So obviously they can't be like doing your work for you, but if, for example, you need help with the question and there's a specific topic that you're struggling with, they can help you gain the knowledge about that topic so you can answer the question by yourself.
I was just going to add, there are probably, if you can reach out to like upper years within that course, those are probably your best bets in like lab reports. They can probably help guide you because they've done it. So I would reach out to them first, so that they could just like give you some tips and tricks. That's something they probably struggled with, so they can kind of pass down that knowledge to you.
Awesome. So actually a few of the questions have been based on thesis. So do you have to write a thesis, and what is a thesis?
I can quickly talk about it, and if other folks want to add on. So a thesis, I think it also differs how it looks for different departments, obviously, but I think in science, a lot of folks end up doing, so it's like a research-based course, and it can be up to like 12 to 15 units worth. So basically, instead of taking like 5 courses, you're only taking 3, but you're spending your other time in the lab or doing like other research related things. If it's not a wet lab, it could be more of like doing research stuff at home, or like you kind of like work from home. But yeah, it's essentially like an opportunity for you to be able to conduct your own research project. It's usually a good opportunity because if you want to go into grad school, that's kind of like you have research experience, and some kind of students like find that really useful because you can also gain like wet lab skills. So somebody just asked me to like explain what a wet lab is. So that is like if you're working with like, I don't really know exactly how to explain it, but like if someone wants to kind of jump in and explain like a wet lab, that would be helpful.
I can try, because honestly the distinction is a little blurry sometimes for me too, but basically wet lab, if you think about it like in the most general sense, it's like your stereotypical like science experiments, I would say, like things like if you're dealing with like certain tissues, or you're doing like certain biochemistry techniques, like working with animal models and all that kind of stuff. I think that would constitute like a wet lab. Feel free to correct me, anybody.
Yeah, that's basically, and then if you have like your chemistry labs that you've done like in high school or something like that, that's considered a wet lab because you're actually doing stuff. Whereas like a dry lab is like if you're just conducting research through like sending out like forms for people to fill out or doing statistics, data. So a lot of different like health researches are like that. Whereas like if you're like testing a vaccine or, you know, looking at bacteria, that's more of like a wet lab. So yeah, students kind of gain kind of research experience. It's mandatory for some specializations. It is not mandatory for everybody. So for example, like for my program, which is chemical biology, it's not mandatory. You have to do some sort of research project, but it doesn't have to be like a full year thesis. But I know for some second year specializations, it's required. So if anyone wants to add.
Yeah, just speaking for, I'm in integrated science, so it is required for our program. And I do know for some other specializations it would be required. So just check that out in your program requirements. Yeah, so moving on to another question. Do you have any studying tips for courses that require memorization like biology? So I can quickly, oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, so I'm in the biology specialization, so definitely learned some tips over the years. I really recommend flashcards. So I do use Quizlet. It's a free online website that you can go to and create as many flashcards as you like. And that I find is really helpful just to go through terms as quickly as you can. So yeah, I definitely recommend flashcards. I started out like physically writing out all my notes in first year, and I learned that was not that helpful moving into first year. So I definitely think being able to adapt your studying habits from high school is a super important thing to learn.
Yeah, so similar to using flashcards, I think the biggest thing that I learned when I came to university in terms of like memorization heavy courses was that testing yourself or teaching other people is like the best way to know if you fully understand a concept. So for example, if I was studying for like biology and I had a certain heading, I would study all my notes and then I would just look at the heading and try to remember or recall everything that I knew about it. Because if you can test yourself and you can remember it, it's a lot better than just sort of passively reading over your notes. Or another thing is being able to teach your friends a certain concept. So I know that, for example, kin students, we had anatomy quizzes every week. So I'd always get together with my friend and we would sort of quiz each other on different topics. If you can teach someone else about a topic and you're able to synthesize the information into something that's digestible and understandable, that shows that you really understand it and you'll likely be able to do well on a test.
I definitely agree with all of that. Another question, did you find that 5 courses were too heavy to manage?
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Juliana.
I can speak to that. I'd say it's definitely a jump from high school. I'm not going to like completely sugarcoat it. And a lot of the times the thing is it's not even like how difficult the work is, it's just how much you have to do. So having 5 courses definitely is a step up from high school. But I will say that it is manageable. It's something that you can definitely schedule for and plan around, and you still can be successful and take 5 courses and have time for yourself. However, if you are taking reduced course load, that's definitely something that's okay as well. So I know for me personally, I took a lot of summer and spring classes over my university experience. And now I'm lucky enough that going into 4th year, I get to take a reduced course load. So I'm just taking 4 courses each term. And I kind of get to give myself a little break going into my 4th year. And hopefully it'll be, all my hard work will have paid off. So I will say that 5 courses, yes, it can be difficult, but you also can be really successful in it.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, keep in mind that the hours that you're in class in university do differ from high school. So high school, every single day, you're in class from a certain amount of time. But in university, you might have a bit more wiggle room with the amount of time you have outside of class. So I would definitely look to things like scheduling your time when you're not attending a lecture, because those are the times where you can really use to go over your notes and just keep track of everything. Many questions are coming. Okay. Would you recommend taking courses together during the day or having them spread out with long breaks in between?
Oh my God, I can answer to this. I feel like having the courses together is probably a really good option. I realize that when I have really long gaps, I don't tend to be productive, but it's really nice when you can like check off your list that you've like finished your classes and now you have the rest of the day to kind of plan, and you're not like waiting for this like lecture from 7 to 9 that you're like dreading to go to. So if you can try to like kind of chunk everything together, it can be really, really useful in like giving you a good chunk of your day left. Whereas like if you have them spread out, it doesn't feel like you have your day, is what I've realized. And then just kind of being honest with yourself that like if you have 8:30s that you sign up for and you're not a morning person, like just don't sign up for them because you're not going to go. So just being honest with yourself in that way is really important, I think.
And like with this question, it also depends on personal preference and you will figure it out over time. I personally enjoyed when my classes were together because I totally agree. Like I feel like having the classes done and then being able to take the rest of the day to study or do something else was really helpful. One thing I wanted to add though was that it's also different for like labs, for example, because some labs you'll have to prepare for it and you have to like move to that location if you're in person. So also make sure that you're scheduling appropriately for that as well.
Definitely. Another question is, how are tutorials different from labs?
All right, so just speaking in terms of some of the tutorials versus labs that you'll encounter in a first year. For example, the one that I think of is Biology 1A03 versus Biology 1M03. So when I took them in first year, Biology 1A03 tends to include, Biology 1A03 has labs, and it includes what we typically think of as a wet lab, like some of us were explaining before. So you'll be performing experiments and you'll be using different instruments and stuff like that. And for example, in the Biology 1M03 class, you have tutorials. So that's less of a lab environment. It's kind of more like a high school class environment. So I would walk into my classroom and there was around 30 people and we'd get taught a little lesson by the teaching assistant and then we would sort of work on our assignment. So there's no experiments to complete. There's some little assignments to work on, but you're not sort of using any wet lab skills in that sense. And it's more just like you're sitting in a class and being taught and completing an assignment or maybe you're doing an activity with your class or working with your peers like that.
Yes, definitely. I think we'll have time for one more question. Sorry, I'm just looking. Just browsing through these questions. Okay, just a quick question. Are calculators typically allowed on tests and exams?
Yeah, so for most tests and exams, they are allowed. Your professor, your instructor will tell you if you are allowed a calculator. And there's a specific calculator that we're allowed to use in our like in-person exams. So they'll let you know which one is sort of approved by McMaster and which one you can use. However, if there was a specific instance where you weren't allowed to have a calculator, you would definitely be notified beforehand so that you could prepare accordingly.
Okay, so if that's the end of our questions, we'll move on to this next slide, which includes all of our contact information. Feel free to take a photo of the slide and reach out to any of us if you have any more questions. All of us would be more than happy to help, and we hope this webinar has already helped answer some of your questions so far. We want to extend a big thank you to all of you for coming out, and a very big thank you to our speakers for sharing your advice and tips for the incoming science cohort. I think I'll give maybe a few seconds for you to take some photos. And yeah, McMaster Science Society is also a really good resource throughout the year if you ever want to reach out to them as well. They host events and lots of useful things for you throughout the year. All right, so if you like, please follow the McMaster Science Society, McMaster Science Local Week, and McMaster Science Society Facebook page, as well as their Instagram accounts on the screen here. And then this webinar's recording and slides will be posted in the link in our bio, so also follow MSU Horizons to stay updated. Thank you all for coming.
Okay, sorry, Calista, keep going.
I'm good, bye.
Oh, I was just going to say, okay, I'm going to be ending the Zoom call now. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. Have a good day.